My name is Elizabeth Rivera. I'm 27. Last Saturday at 7:43 p.m., I was standing at my own wedding reception in a $1,200 dress I'd saved 8 months to buy, watching my father tap his champagne glass with a butter knife in front of 300 people, about to give a toast I didn't ask him to make. "My daughter," he said, his voice carrying over the string quartet. "She is a gold digger, just like her mother." The room went silent. Not movie silent, real silent. The kind where you can hear ice settling in glasses and someone's heels scuffing marble. My husband Michael's hand found mine under the table. His lawyer, David Patel, was sitting at table 6, 15 feet away. He'd stopped mid-bite, fork suspended. I should have seen this coming. My father doesn't do anything without an audience. "Dad," I said, my voice steady even though my face was burning. "This isn't the time." "Isn't it?" He turned to the crowd, playing to them like he always did. "I pay for this beautiful venue, this meal, these flowers, and she can't even let me speak from the heart?" That was a lie. Michael and I had paid for everything. Every single napkin. My father hadn't contributed a single dollar, but he'd told everyone he had. I could see it in their faces. The guests believed him. Aunt Teresa was already shaking her head at me. Uncle Marco looked disappointed. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. My father was still talking. "You know, when Elizabeth was 12, her grandmother, my mother, left her house to both of us, 50-50, a beautiful house on Maple Ridge Drive, worth over $500,000 now. And do you know what my daughter did?" He paused for effect. "She's been hounding me for years, demanding I sell it, demanding her share. A child who contributed nothing, who never visited, who—" "I visited Grandma every Sunday for 6 years," I said. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat on the white tablecloth. "You know I did." "See?" He gestured at me like I'd just proved his point. "Always contradicting, always ungrateful. Just like her mother, who bled me dry in the divorce and still wants more." Michael stood up. David Patel stood up half a second later, but I put my hand on Michael's arm. "Sit down," I said quietly. "Please." Because 3 days ago, something had arrived in my mailbox that changed everything. Let me take you back 15 years, to the summer I turned 12. That was the last good summer. My grandmother Charlotte, we called her Abuela Lottie, lived in a white colonial house with a wraparound porch on Maple Ridge Drive. The house always smelled like cinnamon and lemon pledge. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world who mattered. That July, she taught me how to make her tres leches cake. I remember standing on a step stool in her kitchen, watching her poke holes in the cake with a wooden skewer. "You have to be patient, mi estrella," she said. "You can't rush perfection." Mi estrella, my little star. She died 8 months later. Heart attack. She was 71. At the funeral, my father cried harder than anyone. I remember thinking he must have really loved her. I was 12. I didn't know that some people cry at funerals because they're sad, and some people cry because they're performing. The will reading happened 2 weeks later. My father brought me, which I thought was strange because I was just a kid. The lawyer, a man named Gerald Hoffman, read through the document in a monotone voice. Grandmother's house, appraised at $680,000, was to be split 50-50 between my father James Rivera and me, Elizabeth Rivera. The deed would transfer immediately, but I wouldn't have access to my share until I turned 25. "That's generous," my father said, squeezing my shoulder. "Your grandmother really loved you." I believed him. The first betrayal came 6 years later, when I was 18. My mother had finally filed for divorce after 23 years of marriage. I just started my freshman year at State, living in the dorms on a partial scholarship. I was grading my own essays for Intro to Literature and working at the campus bookstore for $9.50 an hour. My mother called me on a Tuesday night. It was 9:47 p.m. I remember because I was in the middle of restocking the poetry section. Lizzie, I need to tell you something about the house. What house? Your grandmother's house. My stomach dropped. What about it? In the divorce proceedings, your father's lawyers presented documentation showing that the house is owned entirely by an LLC called Rivera Properties Management. Your father claims he bought out your share years ago. He's saying you signed paperwork when you turned 18. I never signed anything. I know, baby, but he has documents. They're claiming I'm not entitled to any portion of the house in the divorce settlement because it's not a marital asset. It's corporate property. I felt like someone had pushed me underwater. But Abuela left half to me. I know, but without the original will, without proof. Lizzie, my lawyer says fighting this would cost $40,000 in legal fees. I don't have that. The judge gave me a $40,000 settlement total. That's it, for 23 years. I sat down on the floor between the frost and the plath. Mom, this doesn't make sense. Your father is very good at making things make sense when he needs them to. After we hung up, I called my father. He didn't answer. I called again, and again. On the fourth try, at 11:22 p.m., he picked up. Elizabeth, it's late. Did you steal my inheritance? Silence. Then, that's a very ugly accusation. Did you? Your grandmother's house is in an LLC for tax purposes. This is complicated adult business you don't understand. Your mother is poisoning you against me. She always does this. I never signed anything. You signed a birthday card when you turned 18. I had it notarized as a joke, remember? I told you it was for a time capsule. I did remember. He'd brought a notary to my birthday dinner at Olive Garden. Said he wanted to preserve my signature for posterity. I thought it was weird, but harmless. That wasn't consent to sell my inheritance. Elizabeth. His voice went cold. You're being greedy, just like your mother. I raised you better than this. He hung up. I sat on that bookstore floor for 45 minutes. A student had to step over me to reach Mary Oliver. The consequences came fast. Within a week, my father had called my Aunt Teresa, my Uncle Marco, both sets of cousins, and his entire side of the family. His story was simple and devastating. I was working with my mother to extort him. We were lying about the inheritance to squeeze more money out of him in the divorce. We were gold diggers. At Thanksgiving, I went to Uncle Marco's house. I was hopeful, stupid. I walked in, and the entire room went quiet. Aunt Teresa was at the stove. She didn't turn around. Is there something I can help with? I asked. You can help by not upsetting your father, Aunt Teresa said, still not looking at me. He's been through enough. I didn't. We know what you and your mother are trying to do. It's shameful, Elizabeth. Your grandmother would be heartbroken. I left before dinner was served. I cried the entire drive back to campus, 43 minutes on Route 9, and had to pull over twice because I couldn't see the road. By Christmas, I'd lost half my extended family. By the following summer, I'd lost the other half. My father made sure of it. Every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday party, he told the same story. Poor James, victimized by his greedy ex-wife and ungrateful daughter. And everyone believed him. I graduated college in 4 years with $38,000 in student loans. I got a job teaching English at Riverside High School, a public school in a district where half the kids qualified for free lunch. I made $43,000 a year. After taxes, loan payments, and rent on a one-bedroom apartment in a building with roaches, I had about $350 left each month. I drove a 2011 Honda Civic with 167,000 miles on it. The air conditioning didn't work. The passenger window stuck halfway down. I bought my groceries at Aldi and used coupons. When Michael proposed to me after 2 years of dating, we booked our honeymoon suite with a Groupon. I was not a gold digger. but my father was very good at making people believe I was. The second public humiliation happened on a Wednesday afternoon in October, 3 months before my wedding. I was in my classroom during lunch period, grading essays on the Great Gatsby, 28 papers, 28 interpretations of the green light. My father walked in without knocking. I looked up. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood." He wasn't. He lived 40 minutes away. "Thought I'd see where my daughter works." He looked around the classroom like he was touring a crime scene, took in the peeling linoleum, the water-stained ceiling tiles, the poster of Shakespeare I'd printed myself at FedEx because the school couldn't afford decorations. "This is what that expensive degree got you?" he said. "Grading papers in a building that smells like mildew?" "I like my job." "Of course you do. It's easy. Summer's off. You always did choose the path of least resistance." 3 of my students were in the hallway. I could see them through the door window. They were listening. "Dad, I'm working. Can we talk later?" "I wanted to let you know I won't be bringing a +1 to your wedding." "Okay." "Your mother will be there, and I won't subject myself to her presence more than necessary, but I'll still pay for my portion." He hadn't paid for anything. We both knew it. "I also wanted to ask if you've thought about what I said, about the house." "There's nothing to think about. Grandma left half of it to me." "Elizabeth." He sighed like I was a disappointing student. "You're 27 years old. You're about to be married. Don't you think it's time to let go of this fantasy? Your grandmother loved you, but she loved me more. I was her son. The house is mine. It's always been mine." Something hardened in my chest, something that had been soft for too long. "The house was appraised at $680,000, I said. "Half of that is $340,000. That's not a fantasy. That's math." "You're embarrassing yourself." One of my students, Marcus, a junior with a 4.0 GPA, poked his head in. "Ms. Rivera, you okay?" My father turned to him, smiled. "She's fine, just family business. You know how it is." Marcus looked at me. I nodded. "It's fine, Marcus. Thank you." After my father left, I sat at my desk and stared at the stack of essays. I didn't grade a single one. I just sat there until the bell rang for fifth period. That night, I told Michael everything. We were in his apartment, soon to be our apartment, eating takeout Chinese food on his couch. "He's gaslighting you," Michael said. He was a lawyer, corporate contracts mostly, but he knew manipulation when he saw it. "Everything he's saying is designed to make you doubt yourself." "I know. We should fight this. I can ask around, find someone who specializes in estate law." "With what money, Michael? You're already paying for the wedding. I can't ask you to." "You're not asking, I'm offering. It'll cost tens of thousands of dollars, and we still might lose. My father has documents. Forged documents probably, but documents. I have nothing." Michael set down his low mane. "So we do nothing?" "I don't know." But 2 weeks later, something happened. I was at school, in the middle of teaching the Crucible to my sophomore class, when the office called down. "Ms. Rivera, you have a delivery at the front desk." I went down during my planning period. The receptionist handed me a padded manila envelope. No return address. Just my name and the school address printed in standard Times New Roman font. I opened it in the teacher's lounge. Inside was a USB drive and a note, handwritten on cream-colored stationery. "Elizabeth, you don't know me. My name is Kimberly Martin. I was involved with your father for 3 years, from 2018 to 2021. I'm not proud of it. I was young and stupid, and he was very convincing. I'm sending you this because I know what he did to you and your mother. I know about the house. I helped him set up the LLC. I was listed as the co-owner so it would look like a legitimate business entity and not a shell company to hide assets. He dumped me 6 months ago for someone younger. He called me greedy when I asked for the $15,000 he owed me for rent. He called me a gold digger. He uses that word a lot. On this USB drive, You'll find a voicemail he left me in 2019, drunk, bragging about how he'd outsmarted everyone in his divorce. He confesses to everything: where he hid the money, how he forged your signature, how he transferred the house into the LLC 18 months before filing for divorce. I don't want anything from you. I just think you deserve to know the truth. Good luck. K. My hands were shaking. I read the note 3 times. Then I locked myself in the single-stall bathroom, plugged the USB drive into my phone with an adapter, and listened to the voicemail. My father's voice, slurred and proud. Babe, you gotta understand. I'm a genius. An absolute genius. I moved the house into our LLC in January 2017, 18 months before I even filed. Karen's lawyers didn't catch it. The judge didn't catch it. And my idiot daughter thinks she's entitled to half? She was 12 when my mom died. She didn't do anything. I'm the one who took care of everything. I'm the one who deserves it. They're just gold diggers, both of them. But I'm smarter. I'm always smarter. There was more. 4 minutes and 12 seconds total. Enough to prove fraud. Enough to prove forgery. Enough to destroy him. I sat on that bathroom floor for 20 minutes. When I came out, I called Michael. I have it, I said. I have proof. 3 weeks later, I sat across from David Patel in his office on 7th Street. David was Michael's law school friend, now a partner at a firm that specialized in estate litigation and fraud cases. Michael had asked him to review the evidence as a favor. David listened to the voicemail twice, read Kimberly's note, examined the LLC documents she'd included. Then he looked at me. This is airtight. We can file a civil suit for fraud, conversion of assets, and unjust enrichment. We'll win. How much will it cost? For you? Nothing. I'll take it on contingency. When we win, and we will win, I take 30% of the recovery. The rest is yours. Why would you do that? Because Michael is my friend, and because your father committed a crime that's very easy to prove, and I don't like criminals. My father tried to stop it, of course. When he got the notice of the lawsuit, he called me 14 times in one day. I didn't answer. He sent emails. He showed up at the school again. This time, the principal had to escort him out. He called Uncle Marco, Aunt Teresa, everyone. Told them I was suing him out of pure greed. That I'd fabricated evidence. That I was trying to ruin him. Some of them believed him. But some, like my cousin Nina, started asking questions. The weeks before the wedding were chaos. My father hired his own lawyer, a man who tried to argue that the voicemail was taken out of context. David Patel destroyed that argument in one email, pointing out that the LLC documents matched my father's confession word for word. My father changed tactics, started telling people he'd made mistakes, but that I was blowing things out of proportion, that we could settle this as a family. He offered me $50,000 to drop the lawsuit. I said no. He offered $100,000. I said no. He couldn't understand it. To him, everything had a price. Everyone could be bought. But I didn't want his money. I wanted the truth. The wedding was on a Saturday in December. We'd booked the Carver estate, a historic mansion with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, because Michael's parents had insisted on paying for the venue as their gift to us. 300 guests, open bar, a string quartet. My father had RSVP'd yes. I'd known he would. He couldn't resist an audience. David Patel was at table 6 with his wife and 2 other friends from Michael's firm. At 7:43 p.m., my father stood up and tapped his champagne glass. And you already know what he said. My daughter, she is a gold digger, just like her mother. The room went silent. Michael's hand found mine under the table. David Patel set down his fork. My father kept talking. I pay for this beautiful venue, this meal, these flowers, and she can't even let me speak from the heart. I stood up, not fast, not dramatic, just stood. Excuse me, I said. I walked across the marble floor in my $1,200 dress and my borrowed heels. walked past table 6, where David was already pulling a folder from his briefcase, walked to the DJ booth, where a college kid named Ryan was managing the playlist. "Can I borrow your microphone?" I asked. Ryan looked confused but handed it over. I walked back to the center of the room, tapped the microphone twice. The feedback screech got everyone's attention. "I need to play something," I said. My voice was calm, steady. "It's a voicemail my father left his mistress in 2019. I think you should all hear it." My father's face went white. "Elizabeth, don't!" I nodded at Ryan. He plugged my phone into the sound system. My father's voice filled the room. Drunk, proud, confessing. "Babe, you gotta understand. I'm a genius. An absolute genius." I moved the house into our LLC in January 2017, 18 months before I even filed. Karen's lawyers didn't catch it, the judge didn't catch it, and my idiot daughter thinks she's entitled to half? She was 12 when my mom died. She didn't do anything. I'm the one who took care of everything. I'm the one who deserves it. They're just gold diggers, both of them. But I'm smarter. I'm always smarter. The voicemail played for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. No one moved. No one spoke. When it ended, I handed the microphone back to Ryan. "For the record," I said, "I didn't ask for this toast. I didn't want my father to speak. But since he did, I thought you should know what kind of man calls his daughter a gold digger." David Patel stood up, walked over with the folder. "Mr. Rivera, you've been served. This is a civil lawsuit for fraud, asset conversion, and unjust enrichment in the amount of $340,000 plus interest and legal fees. We'll see you in court." He placed the papers on the table in front of my father. The room erupted, not in applause, in chaos. People talking over each other. Gasps. Someone dropped a glass. Aunt Teresa stood up, her face pale. "James, is this true?" "It's out of context," my father stammered. She edited it. I didn't edit anything," I said. "The full audio file is part of the court record. Anyone can request it." Uncle Marco was staring at my father like he'd never seen him before. "You stole from your own daughter?" "I didn't steal. The house is mine. You just admitted it," Nina said from table 9. "We all heard you. You said you hid it from the divorce. You said Elizabeth was 12 and didn't deserve it." My father looked around the room, looking for allies, for anyone who still believed him. No one was looking at him the way they had 10 minutes ago. "You're all turning on me?" he said. "After everything I've done for this family?" "What have you done, James?" Aunt Teresa's voice was quiet, cold. "Besides lie?" My father grabbed his coat, looked at me one last time. "You're going to regret this." "No," I said. "I'm really not." He left, walked out through the side door. I heard his car start in the parking lot 30 seconds later. The reception continued, awkwardly at first. Then someone turned the music back on. Michael pulled me onto the dance floor. David Patel raised his glass from table 6. I danced with my husband in a room full of people who finally knew the truth. 6 weeks later, my father's lawyer contacted David Patel with a settlement offer. Full amount, $340,000 plus 8 years of accrued interest at 4%, plus my legal fees. Total, $449,680. I accepted. The money hit my bank account on a Thursday in February. I sat at my kitchen table, our kitchen table now, mine and Michael's, and stared at the number on my screen for a long time. I paid off my student loans, all $38,000, paid off Michael's too, put a down payment on a house, a real house, with a yard and a porch and a bedroom we're planning to turn into a nursery someday. I kept teaching. I didn't quit my job or buy a new car or do anything dramatic. I just kept grading essays and teaching kids about metaphor and symbolism and the difference between a protagonist and a hero. On a Sunday in March, I drove to Grandview Cemetery. Brought flowers, daisies, my grandmother's favorite. I sat next to her headstone for an hour, told her everything: the lawsuit, the wedding, the voicemail, the money. I hope I made you proud, Abuela Lottie, I said. The wind picked up, moved through the trees. It sounded, just for a second, like someone saying, Mi estrella. A year later, I'm sitting in my living room. It's snowing outside. Big, fat flakes that stick to the window pane. There's a cat asleep on the couch next to me, a tabby we adopted from the shelter. Michael named her Lottie. I haven't spoken to my father since the wedding. He sends emails sometimes. Apologies that aren't really apologies, explanations that don't explain anything. I delete them without reading past the first line. Some of my family reached out. Uncle Marco apologized. Nina visits every few months. Aunt Teresa sent a card but hasn't called. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a smaller family if it means an honest one. If you're watching this, and someone in your life has made you feel like wanting what's yours makes you greedy, I want you to know something. It's not greed to expect honesty. It's not greed to ask for what you were promised. And it's definitely not greed to refuse to let someone rewrite history to make themselves the hero. My father called me a gold digger because he needed me to be one. Because if I was the villain, he didn't have to be. But the truth doesn't care about his story. And neither do I anymore. If someone's ever tried to make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself, type "I stood my ground" in the comments. Or if you're still working up the courage, type "I'm getting ready." Both are brave. Both are valid. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Stay warm this winter.